Oh, stop. Wait. Okay. Figure it out. Where is Oren?
Most
Oh,
important
okay.
question.
People are coming. China. Okay. We're just letting people in.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh. Zara, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Great.
It's a little staticky. Wait.
A little staticky.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can fix that.
Hey, Megan and Eli and Sam and Eliezer, Timothy. Uh, and a blank screen. Megan, it's so good to see you.
It would probably help if I unmuted. It's so good to see your face.
I know.
I really miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too. I want to see that baby.
What was that?
I want to see the baby.
Something about the baby?
I want to see the baby in live.
Oh, he's sleeping right now. Thank goodness. He did not sleep more than half an hour all day long.
Wow. Yeah, well, we need to catch up on the phone anyways. So.
Yes, for sure.
Hey, Dom. And then Mitchell and Laura. And Zimi. All right, we should get started now that we have a good mess. I'm Dor and Oren.
Oren. Hello.
Oren, you're still a little staticky. Is everyone else? Is it just for me?
Yeah, staticky for me as well.
Okay. Let me see if I can fix that.
Yeah, so we're gonna just spend this next hour and a half. Oren's gonna get us started with some movement, and Oren can introduce kind of the movement practice, and then just really going into a conversation around like what is our discipline right now in our lives in terms of like our health and our routine, and like where do we want to get more support, or where do we want to like also release some that's actually not serving us. And yeah, looking forward to diving into this with y'all. It's juicy right now with during this time period. So yeah, and the movement is just going to set us right up. So let's see. Am I fine? Can you hear me fine, or is it breaking up as well?
Yeah, you're fine.
You sound good. Should we test this again and see how this is working? Oh, I wonder if I'm seeing your name on my screen. I wonder if I join. Is that an issue? Let me see if I can change this. Are you hearing all right?
Yeah, Oren, it's still a little brutal.
No.
Like, yeah.
Okay. You kind of sound like a robot, but
Okay. I'll get it a different.
So good to see so many folks from the retreat this last weekend.
yeah. Hey, Mickey.
Hey, friend.
Yeah. Where's it get? Okay, so as we get maybe let's just as Oren comes, let's just do a little bit of gets ready and sets up. All right, are you ready, Oren? Okay, so maybe let's just do a little bit of just warming up in our bodies to get in. So find if it's accessible to you, maybe stand up, and let's just do a little bit of rolling some joints. So starting with the head, the neck. Bring your shoulders back up to your ears. And forward. Rolling our wrists. Go into hips. Wide circles. And the other way too. And a little pelvic thrusts. Just like small movements with the hips. And then to our knees. And the other way. Maybe bringing both feet together. And then rolling our foot. And then a little shaking. Just I hate them. And making some sounds. Kind of shaking off the day.
All right, I'm on plan C here.
Oh yeah.
Are you hearing me all right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I went through several pairs of headsets and now I'm connected through my phone. So thanks for bearing with me here. And thanks for covering, Dor. All right, so it seems like we got some joint warm up happening. We're ready to start moving a bit more. we good to go? I can start sharing music and okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Cool. Thanks all. Thanks for your patience. Always got to go with the flow with Zoom. Okay. Ophir, it's breaking up for you. Is it the voice, the music, both?
We're good.
It's good on your end?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and get started? If it becomes more of an issue, just let me know. Good. It's good for you also, Sam. Cool. Okay. So I'm gonna take a step back here in this 100-degree weather, and we can start moving together. Cool. So I mean, to kick us off in this conversation around discipline, we're just going to start by just playing with some different feelings in terms of structure and ease, structure and flow. So let's just start out standing, if that's comfortable with you right now. And everything that I'm offering is just that, as an offer, as a suggestion. So wherever you feel like you can benefit from adjusting, making modifications, please go ahead and do that. And so to get started, we're gonna just start connecting with the breath. All right, so we're gonna do a few simple movement breathwork combinations here. And so you'll wanna make sure that you've got a little bit of room around you so you can move pretty much in 360 degrees without knocking things over. And we're gonna start by raising the hands up on the inhale through the nose, and then lowering the arms on the exhale through the nose. So short, sharp inhalations and exhalations. Inhale up, exhale down. So starting to connect with the breath here, starting to get the blood flowing. Short, sharp inhalations and exhalations. Good, slow that down, allow the arms to relax. And then we're gonna go in rotation similarly. So exhalation on each rotation. So exhale to the left, exhale to the right, through your nose, exhale, exhale, exhale. And playing with how you can keep your hips stable while getting some good rotation all the way around. Exhale, exhale, exhale. And then play with the speed. Can you speed it up a bit comfortably? About 5 more. And slow that down. And now we're going to touch the floor on the exhale through the nose again. And then exhalation when we come up and touch the hips with the hands. So exhale, 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 exhale. Good, a few more. And slow that down, come to stand. And then this last breath exercise we're gonna get into before we start with a little bit more play is just a little like sweating with the oldies style. Waking up the side of the body, exhale in each direction. Short, sharp exhales through the nose. Good, a few more here. And slow that down, come to stillness. And just tune in to the body. Notice what, if anything, shifts. Feel into the sensations within your body as you get connected with the breath there. Good. Okay. So now we're going to just take a moment and get rooted here. So spread the legs apart if you're standing, and just sit into the legs a bit. You can give it a little bounce. You can bounce side to side. And just notice here as we start getting the legs activated, what's the go-to with the arms here? So do your arms automatically start doing something? Are they relaxed in front? How's your back in space? So are you noticing any forward leaning or back leaning? And just get a feel for what is center for you. What does it feel like to be a little bit with the weight forward on the feet? If you bring the weight backward, how does that change things? To one side, to the other? Cool. So just keep playing with these different directions. Are you all hearing music? No. Okay. Let's see if I can get that going. Oh, okay. No, I don't have that option for whatever reason. Okay, we'll keep free flowing. Okay. All right, so now grounded in the legs here. Take a moment to sit a bit deeper. Just notice what activates within your body. As you go a little bit deeper, it's not quite a squat, but kind of in between standing and squatting. Go a little bit deeper. You can keep some movement in there too, if that feels good. Good. And then just start to feel the legs activate, moving side to side, one foot to the other. Maybe some joints will start to creak and pop. Okay, and coming down all the way into whatever version of a squat feels good for you. Maybe that's sitting up straight in a squat. Maybe you decide it's more comfortable for you to come into a kneeling position. Whatever works for you here. And just take a moment and center into why you're here. Center into what is it about the conversation today, the exploration in front of us today. What is it that calls to you? What are you curious about? What are you looking to explore or shift? And as we move through this brief practice together, I encourage you to just have an open question of, how can I expand my definition of discipline, my awareness around discipline? How can I explore the energy from which I approach discipline and structure and routine, and just have that as an open question. And so now let's stand up together gradually, just nice and slow, being easy on the joints. And let's start getting into the hips a bit. So moving the hips in whatever direction and whatever plane, I'm gonna start kind of like a clock, up and down and around this way and on a vertical axis in one direction. And we're starting just getting into the joints in order to release any stagnation that might be there. We're doing a lot of sitting these days, probably even more than usual. Switch directions. And then now if you were going up and down, if you were going on a vertical plane, switching to a horizontal plane. If you were going on a horizontal plane, switching to a vertical plane. And really playing with the full range that feels right for you to get into your hip joints. This is a place where a lot of us tend to get a buildup of energy. And now play with speed. So maybe you slow it all the way down and go as slowly as you can. And really feeling every nook of the hip joint as you go around. And then try varying the speed. So maybe you turn up the dial a bit. And just be careful when you turn it way up. You want to make sure your hips are pretty lubricated to do that. And let's switch, get the other direction if you haven't already. All right, and we're going to bring it up to the torso. So for the torso, I'll take a step closer here. What we're going to get is some movement of the torso in space. So we're going to start with, I'll go at a side angle, basically just getting the chest to go around in a circle as best as you can to open up the mid-back, the middle portion of the spine, getting some movement in this part of the spine where we're used to the lower back hinge, we're used to some neck movement. We want to encourage a little bit more movement in the chest and the area around the heart. So how can we get that part of the chest a little bit more mobile, a little bit more juicy? And you might notice that your spine isn't necessarily familiar with how to only mobilize that portion. Your spine might want to move the whole spine around. So just play with this idea of what if the lower spine is stationary and we're just moving the chest? How might that encourage some space around the heart? And switching directions. If you really want to play with this, you can start going on the vertical plane. So moving the chest up and down in space without actually using any of your hips in one direction. And then the other. And check in, how's your breath here? What do you notice as you start potentially doing some unfamiliar movements? What kind of structure or familiarity or routine are you kind of looking for in some way, shape, or form? What kinds of movements that you know are you going back to? And let's move now to the head. So we're going to get into the cervical spine a bit. So just like we were doing with the hips, moving around in a circle and being really gentle here. And also noticing when patterns of moving the head, looking around come into play, and can you stay focused on the horizon in front of you, even as your neck is moving around in a circle. Maybe some frustration comes up around kind of being relatively stationary and just moving one part of the body in isolation. Another direction. And here too, practice dialing it way down, going super, super slow. Playing with the full range of the neck. Checking in with the breath. Sometimes when we get into neck work, we can forget about the breath. Good, and just slowing down here, taking a moment to just check in with the body, check in with the hips. And you can close your eyes to do this and just put your mind's eye almost like it was swimming around the hips and just explore. And you might do a little bit of movement, just explore how it feels right now. Explore what might feel activated, what might feel open, what might feel free, what might even feel more rigid than it did before, or less. Similarly with the torso, what do you notice? And in the chest? What does your chest want now that you've opened it up a bit? And then similarly in the neck, feeling into what else does it need now that you've given it some extra attention. Okay. And now from here, let's come into a horse stance. So some of you will be familiar with this stance. So basically what we're doing is bringing the legs, the feet a little bit wider than hips width, and sitting into the legs, kind of how we started today. And what you want to do here is just be aware of when there's a pattern of kind of sticking the butt out as we do it. You want to drop the hips down and almost imagine a weight extending down from the hips that connects us with the earth. Notice the shoulder positioning in the arms. If there's any holding, see if you can bounce some of that holding out of the arms and really relax the arms. And then just as we did when we started, take a look at where the weight is in the feet. Is the weight a little bit more forward, a little bit more like ready to move forward? Looking to the future, is the weight a little bit more back in the heels? And see if you can get to a midpoint and just drop into your stance here. And then find some stillness in this stance. And breathing here into the belly, as deep belly breaths as we can encourage, even when our legs are working pretty hard. So I'm going to be quiet for a few moments and just ask you to check in with the mind. What's coming up? Just noticing, not fixing, not changing, just noticing what comes up in the mind as we're standing in this position and breathing. And if you need to come out of it and shake your legs a bit, take a little break, you're welcome to do that. And then come back in. Just being here in stillness, but still working, feeling that you're working. Notice where the mind goes. Notice where the breath goes. See if you can come back to belly breathing. Good, and now come on down wherever you can. If you can adjust the camera for if you have some room to get on the ground, wherever you are, you really only need like even a half a yoga mat's area of open floor space. And we're gonna spend some time on the ground here. Just gonna do a time check because I'm using my clock, okay. And so once you're on the ground and you're all set up there, just start moving the wrists around on the ground in all kinds of different hand orientations, putting the weight on the wrists as long as that's something that's feasible for you right now, with the fingers pointed toward you, with the fingers pointed away from you, going around to different, shifting the weight in all these different ways to expose your hands and your wrists to different sensations. And just continuing to do different patterns with your hands. Touching the ground in a way that we don't necessarily typically touch it. Good, and then meet me in all fours. So with your hands about shoulder width apart, your legs, your knees about shoulder width apart. And what we're gonna do from here is just start rolling around, doing some big circles in either direction to start, and then we'll get the other side. and just seeing what you notice in the body. Bring some mindfulness into this practice, some awareness into this movement practice. Good. So I can't see everyone, so just keep in mind integrity of your joints and do what you need. If you need some extra cushioning under your knees, give yourself that. And go ahead and switch directions, rotating in a direction you haven't rotated. And now start to enter some free movement into this. So maybe you, as you're rotating, start getting into your torso a bit, like we did when we were standing up. Maybe you start getting into your neck a bit. Maybe you turn it into almost like a figure 8 kind of movement going around. Free flow with it. See what comes out. What is your body communicating it can use right now? And make sure if you haven't gone in the other direction with this dynamic movement, make sure you give this to the other direction as well. Again, checking in with the breath. Good, and from here, coming back to stillness on all fours. And noticing here, are my shoulders or my upper arms internally rotated in? Are potentially my this ball and socket of my shoulders up high by my ears? Practicing, bring the shoulder blades down the back and giving yourself a bit of external rotation out of the arms as though you're about to do a push-up. And now from this place, getting into your neck a bit in isolation and feel the difference on this, the plane of the ground, how that feels different in your body. And then similarly, moving down the body, feel what it's like to get into some of those chest circles, moving the torso when you have your hands and knees rooted on the ground. A little bit less leeway here. And make sure you take the opposite direction as well. And then getting into your hips. And really focusing on moving in your hips in a way that maybe you haven't yet. What are they asking for? Are you starting to sense tension in different parts of the body as you hyper-focus on one particular area and bringing space into it? Okay. And now from here, draw yourself sort of an imaginary line. If you're on a mat, you kind of have an outline. And let's say you have a carpet, draw yourself some borders. And now we're gonna just play with improvising some movement within this, some ground-based movement within this defined border. So I'm gonna use my mat as the border. You can just create an imaginary container for yourself and just practice all the different types of movement you can do with 4 points of contact. So maybe it's your 2 feet and your 2 hands. Maybe it's your forearms and your toes. So starting to see what kinds of creativity can you enter, can you explore within these boundaries. And this is where having the playlist I curated would be really fun, but we can pretend.
Oren, I made you host too if you want to play.
Oh, okay, let's see. Okay. Doesn't seem to be allowing me to do it, but let's try again. doesn't seem to be working. It's okay. I'm not sure. We're having some technical challenges this time. Okay, good. Yeah, looking good. What I can see, nice job playing around in this boundary here. And now we're going to shift into no boundaries and see how that changes. So now pretend that boundary doesn't exist and see what else comes up about the way you're able to move. See what else opens up for you here. See what else your body asks for. Good, and now coming back to a comfortable resting position, whether that's squat, whether that's kneeling. And just after some of that more vigorous movement, doing a check-in. Taking a moment to reconnect with the breath. Sense into any shifts internally in the body, whether it's an increased heart rate, breathing rate, maybe noticing a little sweating. And just ask without an attachment to whether or not an answer comes up immediately. What felt different about playing within the container and playing without one? Now we'll gradually come into standing. And with feet about hips width apart, taking stock here. Now standing and just doing a scan from head to toe. And you can close your eyes for this. Sensing into how awareness may have shifted. Maybe even what emotions might have opened up. Seeing some chat activity. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna move into just one last practice here before we close out. And so what we'll do now is just get down into some side squats. So squats with one leg extended and one leg bent here. So I'll demo that up here. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can kind of side lunge here with your opposite foot up. You can side lunge with your opposite foot down. You can also keep this pretty high and move side to side, just whatever feels right in your body right now. And just feel into your hips and notice whether your hands kind of want to touch the floor as you get low. Just nice and gradual, playing with speed, side to side. And then if you've been going low, coming higher. If you've been going higher, going low if that feels right. And just see what feels different. And listening to the call if your body's asking for some other movements as you go side to side. Other shifts. Maybe you decide to forward fold and get into the lower back a bit to release the head and neck. Maybe you decide to walk backward and forward and just get into the inner thighs a bit more, into the hips. Wherever you are, checking in with the breath. How can we explore what is being called to explore without sacrificing that connection to what's essential? And coming up to stillness when you're ready, standing feet hips width apart. And we're going to close with one of my favorite things. If you've moved with me before, you've probably done this, is we're simply going to start to shake. And we're going to move up and down, just very lightly at first, the whole time focusing on this connection to the earth. So noticing where there might be temptation for the feet to come up and staying grounded for this part of the exercise. Very gradually at first, we'll be shaking for a couple of minutes here, so gradually entering into it. This is incredibly a powerful and simple exercise to encourage movement of energy through the body. And what we want to do is really be tuned into as though there's a string extending downward from the sky and giving us a little bit of lift, allowing our neck to be long, our spine to feel spacious, and just shaking here. I like to close the eyes and just really feel into the internal experience as the cobwebs start to clear. Taking deep breaths and really sending the breath to clear out whatever needs to move through and out of the body. Return to the earth for composting. Turning up the amplitude on the shakes, so really vigorously dropping down as though you're trying to shake the flesh off the bone. Remembering to keep that elongation of the cervical spine. Noticing here too, if you start to lean a bit forward or back, coming to that center point, even as things are a bit tumultuous, there's a lot happening in the body, coming back to center. Turning up that amplitude even more, turning up the frequency even more. I know that if you've eaten at any point recently, this can be a little challenging, so no pressure here. One more minute. Many martial arts practices incorporate shaking Many animals in the animal kingdom incorporate shaking. It's a way of releasing, clearing for the conversation we're about to enter and what we'll be creating. So let's have that intention of clearing whatever it is we need to let go of. And as we come to a close and turn down the volume on the shaking very gradually, when we stop shaking, I think most of you are on mute, which is okay. And I'll ask you to just sound whatever it is that it feels like the body can use. Once we get to stillness, so I'll cue you. Gradually turning down the volume on the shaking. Let's say we're about a 5 out of 10 right now, turning it down to a 4, to a 3, to a 2, 1, 0.75, 0.5. Can barely even tell that you're shaking now. 0.25. Stillness and just sound whatever comes out. Stillness. Okay, and we'll take one huge breath in here, the biggest breath in so far together. Inhale. You can raise the arms if you like, really get a big inhale. And exhale, release it down. Thank you all. Thank you all for playing.
Thanks, Oren, for a beautiful practice as always. Let's maybe take like 3 minutes, go get a water or use a bathroom or whatever you need to come back, and then we'll meet back up here at 5:51 or 8:51 Eastern time.
Awesome. Thank you.
I mean, I do. I need to work on my hips and do more. How do you feel feeling? So wait another minute. Everyone to come back in. Schwitzen.
still open?
What'd you say? What'd you say, Mickey?
Are you still open?
Yeah,
Cool.
but only for a few more days.
Of course.
You know me too well, Mickey.
I just got back, so
Oh, where were you?
finally I went on an adventure. Trinity Alps, Ashland, Oregon, Humboldt, Trinidad, all out and about.
We got a job thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, seeing most of the people are back, so let's just. Oh, we got 2 other people joining us. Actually, Oren, can you make me host? So maybe let's just go around and I'll start and just say your name, where you're calling from, and just check in with in 3 words or less of how you, what you're coming in, like what are you feeling right now? So I'll start. I'm Dora, feeling good and sweaty. And I'll pass it to the next person, and I'll pass it to Celia.
Hi, I'm Celia, and I'm feeling very relaxed, like my muscles feel very happy right now, and I'm feeling hydrated because I just drank a whole bunch of water. Oh, do you want me to pick somebody else? Okay, I will pick Timothy.
Hi all, I'm Timothy, calling from New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, and I did just eat before that, so that was, I felt a very bready, yeah, it was quite the experience, but otherwise feeling really good and sweaty, so thank you, and I'll pass it to Ellie.
Yeah, I too ate just before this, but I'm feeling good about the self-care I've been showing myself with for dinner and then some exercise right now. So, and I will pass to Dom.
Hey everybody, I'm Dom. I'm calling from Boise, Idaho. And thank you, Oren. I feel like very shaken off, like you kept saying, and it feels good, and glad to have that at the end of the day, so thank you. And I will call on Zach.
Thanks, Dom. Hi, everyone. Sorry for running late. I was just messaging. I did a session, a group session with Oren this weekend, and was just messaging, coincidentally asking for if there was any videos online, of his videos online to kind of like continue it. And someone was like, "Oh, there's something right now," and or something going on right now, and just was like gonna see if I can just hop in. And yeah, feeling I just a little sweaty. I was just doing some movement too. And I will, yeah, good to see some of you again. I will pass to Alex.
Thanks, Zach. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, outside of Eugene. 3 words are sweaty kitchen magic. And sorry, I wasn't really in the beginning. I'm cooking a duck and making melon ice cream. So I'm a little bit doing both. I'll call on Megan.
Hi, I am Megan, calling in from Kansas City. And I'm feeling invigorated. I feel like I never get to move anymore, which is very weird for me, but I have a 3-month-old, and so I'm normally just sitting and nursing all day. So this was amazing to shake out my whole body. So thank you so much.
Mm.
And let's see, Laura, I'll call on you.
Maybe Laura's is maybe someone else can.
Let's see, Mitchell.
Hi, my name's Mitchell. I'm calling from Philly, and I would say I'm feeling um, a little fuzzy and cloudy in my head, and also pretty open in my body. And so I will call on Dominic.
I think Dom's already gone.
So. I think I already went, but I can call. No, go ahead.
I don't know who hasn't gone. Ellie.
Hey, I'm Eli. I'm calling from New Orleans. I'm feeling also kind of fuzzy, feeling loose, and feeling very tired in my body. It's really slow. Also not able to stay for the full portion of this session, so I'm gonna drop off in a little while. I'm grateful to be here. I'll call on Oren.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Oren. I am calling in from Santa Rosa area, so north of the Bay Area. And I'm coming in super warm, nice and sweaty, and also just grateful to be in this conversation that's near and dear to my heart and has been something that's been really transformative for me. So I'm excited to dive in with you all. Dor, are you going to go? Do we have anyone else on the line?
I think Mickey is. Right.
Oh, Mickey. Okay.
I'm Mickey. I am in Oakland, California. I'm feeling shaken, fuzzy, and transitional.
I see a lot of people feeling fuzzy and shaky and loose. So yeah, we're gonna, thanks everyone for sharing, and yeah, thanks again, Oren, for the movement practice. And yeah, we'll just dive into a little bit of the discussion, and we'll break out into groups as well, so we can have a little more intimate discussion, and then we'll kind of come back as a whole. But just to start us off, what discipline is such like a big topic, and there's so much around it, and what does it even mean, and like what ways of discipline. And I think like the focus of this is really to think about like our health and our wellness, and how we structure our routines, and how we structure the way we take care of ourselves. And when can we become too restricted based on like having too many practices, or when are we don't really have any structure, and to really give our self-care, or our health the attention that it needs as well. And it's kind of funny, as like I'm starting this conversation, I like, just in general, I feel like Oren represents to me more like structure, and I'm like more like flow, although I'm actually pretty rigid in my self-care and health practices as well, and which has been a big thing in my life, of like really like health coming first, and creating structure around that, and like consistent morning routines and night routines, and things that would like help me stay balanced and focused, even when I've been traveling a lot. Like a lot of the time I've moved, but if I have like these practices, it helps me keep grounded and centered. And yeah, just watching just so that I can be of service. And it's been hard. Like a lot of times I feel like I've gone the opposite, where I've become too hard and then too like strict in my practice, and that prevents me from being as like open to like different experiences. And there's times where I've been a little too loose, and I can see my health dwindling. So yeah, so I just invite us to all like kind of like reflect for a moment, and really, and as we'll break out into groups of like what's our journey like right now, and what's it been like, and where are we at now with how we discipline the way we take care of ourselves. And maybe let's take just like a moment of silence to reflect, and I'll break us out into groups, and then we'll just go on into breakout groups and have a few minutes each to share and be heard, and then we'll come back together and widen this conversation. So yeah, so I'm gonna just break us out into groups.
How long will we be breaking out for, Dor?
We'll break out for 15 minutes, and each one will have, it'll be groups of 3, and each one will have about 5 minutes to share.
Cool.
All right. So I'm gonna break this up.
Back together again.
Yeah, just in there with you guys, within the mushy space, I think is what I was trying to say before. Yeah, mushiness.
Well, I hope you all had meaningful breakout groups, and I'm sure some closed earlier than you'd have liked, or it's always that thing with breakout rooms. But you know, and this is like, and the reason like we also call this the Gevurah is like Gevurah in the Kabbalah in Hebrew is discipline, and its counterpart is like loving kindness and chesed. And sometimes, like for me, like when I see that, is like Gevurah is like the discipline in how we like in our routine, and chesed could be like being more in the pleasure and the loving, but like maybe eating a little too much like pizza or ice cream, or never moving our bodies enough, or whatever it is that like it's just like, oh, let's just get in the pleasure, which is like important as well. Like we need both. But if we like just get in the pleasure and not in the discipline and like making sure to create more structure for our health, then we can also lose balance as well. And so yeah, I would love to just hear maybe we can just all share a little bit of just harvest a few things that came up during our conversations. If anyone has something to share, and bring it to the whole group.
I could share. Megan, is it okay if I reflect on your share in this?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So Megan was sharing how she has a young baby, and I was really like something she shared was so interesting, of like that every so often, every day, every week, this baby is changing and growing into like another iteration of their growth into being a human and as a human, and like just how like that sort of rhythm is so different than the rhythm that I'm thinking about in terms of routine and structure. And yeah, it just was like, that really was like, oh yeah, kind of mind blowing a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm so curious to hear about Megan's, like, just knowing about your routine a lot beforehand, just how much that shifted, and just seeing other friends that have had babies as well.
I know. I can't wait to tell you more about that. But I guess I kind of want to go on a little bit what Alex was just talking about, kind of like from the mom perspective. But I just really found it interesting that all of us, Alex, Dominic, and I, we all had like food being like a big part of like self-care and routine. And yeah, like even just thinking about that from the majority of the time, raising a newborn, it is like all about food. So yeah, I just love that like nourishment is like a big part of self-care, like from the time that we are born into this world.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Anyone else have something they want to share? Let's come up.
I noticed this. I've been taking pleasure in a lot of like the spaciousness I have during this isolation period. You know, living with folks that are, you know, immunosuppressed. I have kind of stepped away from quite a few things, and so kind of finding the balance of like really enjoying and but also like realizing that I fall into some laziness too, and enjoying it, but also noticing when it's trying to notice when it's too much.
Yeah, I had like one of my favorite like Ayurvedic teachers. He's always like 80% of the time be on, and then 20% of the time like, you know, let yourself like 80% of the time be like with the discipline that you want, and then 20% of the time like, because that's just as important. That's just as important medicine. But if we're like too much just 100% of the time on discipline, then we lose something, you know. So it's like that 20% to let ourselves like go wild once in a while, but then like coming back to have like that foundation so we can stay balanced as well. That's just been huge for me. Just thinking about that, it's like allowed me to soften in many ways, because I think I was leaning towards like trying to be disciplined all the time, and so like having that 20% to like, you know, drink my cappuccino or whatever it is, you know, and then it's super helpful.
I'm curious to hear if anybody had sort of a shift in perspective, or heard a new perspective around discipline, or in some way just kind of like stretching how you've perceived it before. Or if anybody's like, I've got now a list of things I want to work on.
Someone in my group was sharing about how part of the way that they treat themselves, it's not as much out of like discipline as much as it's like, this thing makes me feel this way, and like I don't like that, so I'm not doing that. And I don't know that I've like made myself sensitive to those sorts of responses from my body. Like this person was like, I eat this, I get tired, so I don't eat this because I don't want to feel tired. I don't know that I've like linked certain things to like making me feel tired or certain things to like making me feel one way or another. It's mostly just this tasty. So I'd be interested to potentially maybe cultivating some more like ability within myself to link feelings and like actions that I've taken before them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, the awareness piece is so helpful in this conversation specifically. And Dor brought up Ayurveda a few moments ago, and one of the principles of Ayurveda is like seeks like, and this notion of when we're in like a more out of balance place, we might really like how we feel when we engage in certain activities or when we eat certain things that are not actually that will keep us out of balance. And when we're in more balance, and Dory, correct me if I'm misspeaking, but when we're in balance, we seek more of what will support us in being in balance. So also just bringing that awareness to like, what state am I coming to this from? And to what extent do I need a little bit more of the structure that can help me get to a more balanced state, where then I can kind of like ease off some of the structure and allow myself to, or like listen to that intuitive guidance as I reconnect to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that what I find too is like when I'm really out of balance, then it's easy for like I can't like sense as much things that are harming me. But when I'm more like, it's like kind of like the devil. I don't even know like the word I'm like use, but like, I just become, the more I'm in balance, actually, the more sensitive I've become. So it's like I notice like right away if things don't help me feel good, or like if I don't do this or I do this, like I see how that, and so it's like both a blessing and can be like a curse. But overall, like and that's sometimes, but also sometimes when you're too like strict, it can cause you to be out of balance because it's too much in the head, and then you're not in the body with the intuitive and this feeling and this sensing of like what you actually need. And it's like, this is what I need to do, versus like listening to the body of what it's, and I'm sure like I would like, that's why I can't wait even to my conversation with Megan, because I'm sure like, like there's things that you thought like, this is what I need to do. But then when you have a baby, it changes everything. And it's like, oh, actually that, or like when you're pregnant, it's like, oh, actually like, this is what I think should be good for me. But actually like my body's telling me something else.
Can I offer just a quick, like a super quick kind of somatic test of this concept? If you're game to try it, is if you hold up your fist, if you make like a really strong fist, and then with one hand, and then with the other hand, if you try and just open up the fist with your other hand. So just try that for a minute. And notice now you can relax that. And then now you're going to make a fist with that same hand, and then use the other hand to help that fist really get strong, or really get into a fist even more. Do you notice a difference in how that fist responds from situation 1 to situation 2? Yeah, I see some head shaking. What's the difference? Anyone want to share?
The muscles in my arm, like they don't feel as strained for when I was like pulling on it versus curling my hand in. Like my arm could relax a lot more, even with like the force of making a fist.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's this. Oh, go ahead, Mickey.
One was a fight and one was like a together activity.
Yeah. So this is such a metaphor for how we respond when we're approaching discipline from a place of like, I gotta like undo this bad pattern, and I gotta like really fix this, and versus an energy of, okay, I got this pattern. How am I going to support kind of moving in the direction and kind of like working with it more jujitsu rather than like beating it? And just that different energy that we come to, how it can be so supportive and just so much more alive.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's great. yeah, and I think, we're gonna wrap up right now, but it's 6:30, and that's when we said we'll close. And yeah, I think that Oren like leave us with a really of just like how do we like keep on seeing where there's strain or where there's like support, and so and that's like kind of guiding the discipline, like how do we want to keep on supporting versus like straining, but how are we supporting our practice or our health so that we keep on thriving. And and so thanks everyone for showing up. This was great.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dor.
And yeah, we're doing this every week. So next week we're doing one about connection. Every week is a different theme with different teachers. So next week there's going to be a session about connections, and in 2 weeks one about balance as well, and with a movement component and a discussion component. So if you're interested, just I'm just leaving my email, and I mean some of y'all I'm already connected with, but and it'll be, just keep on coming. It'll be great to have y'all more. All right, much love. Thanks everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dor. Thanks, Oren.
Thank you.
Dor, if I email you, you'll add me to whatever your mailing list is or whatever?
Yeah.
Great. See you soon.
All right, y'all.
That was really great. I'm so glad I got to be a part of this session with you guys.
Thank you for joining. Remind me your name?
I'm Celia.
Celia.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Good to meet you. Thank you.
Good to meet you. Yeah, thanks so much, you guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Cool. How are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm like so schwitzing.
Yeah.
So
Do you want to stop recording, by the way?
Oh, yeah.